Today, for the Kilowatt Hour podcast, we are joined by my good friend and EV race car driver, Craig Coker. After retiring from a career of professional competitive skiing, Craig began to test the limits of electric vehicles, and now he's starting to win a lot of races. And not just all electric events like Tesla Corsa. He's out there beating internal combustion engine cars in a performance Model 3 with some unplugged performance modifications. So thanks for joining us, Craig. I'd love to hear in your own words how you became this electric ugly duckling of motorsports.
Yeah, buddy, it's exactly that. Well, is that ugly duckling is like what I like to say a year ago, and it's really changed drastically this year, especially this past weekend with how much interest I've gotten from, motorsports in general, not, internal combustion drivers and stuff, and how interested they are. So, a little bit about me and my background. I was born and raised in a small town called Big Bear Lake, California. It's in Southern California. Everyone pretty much knew everyone there, and it's very much so like a uh, outdoorsy, like extreme sports kind of mountain town. You got your mountain biking, your skiing, your snowboarding, you got wakeboarding, even BMX and stuff. And I really got into all that. Like I'm a major adrenaline junkie, right? So I grasped onto that stuff, and I really love to be unique too, and to be on the forefront of something new, and to promote that. So, that's where EVs came in because the majority of people in the motorsports industry are driving internal combustion vehicles. So I jumped into that as of now, but back up a little bit again, I got into freestyle skiing, slopes, jumping, rails, half pipes, the backcountry and stuff. And I became a professional freestyle skier and traveled the world. Um, and, I knew that I couldn't hang on to that forever because it was really putting a lot of stress on my body. I've had multiple concussions, broken bones, blown knees, the whole 9 yards. It wasn't fun. So, um, after that, when I pretty much retired from skiing, I needed to find something else that would basically fulfill that adrenaline. And my first thought was getting into some type of motorsports. But I just didn't want to do the general, like, whatever, get in the same, like, car as everyone else. Because I also knew that I'm getting into this at an older age than a lot of people. This was about the time when Tesla came out. Well, they didn't even come out with it yet. It was a Tesla Model 3, and you could pre-order it. And my initial thought was, okay, I want to take this car, promote the EV motorsports industry, and I want to turn it into a rally car. So I did, I had a couple friends that did some rally, and it was super interesting to me. I even did a little bit of rally school back east, and I was hooked on it. And so, I get this car, and what I really wanted to do with it first was not necessarily like turn into a rally car right away, because uh, I wanted to promote what the car was able to do functionally first as a stock car. And I did that for like a year or so. And while I was doing it, I was really trying to figure out how to hone in on what I wanted to do for EV motorsports. Um, and
Wait a minute, that's not such an easy thing. That takes some serious skill, and not everyone could just hop into a performance Model 3 to start winning races. How did you get into racing to begin with?
yeah, absolutely. So, um, it definitely does take some skill. And I think that my professional freestyle skiing really was kind of a way the cross training to uh, EV motorsports or motorsports in general because I was able to focus at a high level and have peripherals that most people could never have, or it was very difficult for them to have. When I'm driving, I'm looking straight, but I could my peripheral, I could see everything happening, and that is very, very important to have. So I definitely had a skill set going into it already. It wasn't something that, you know, I just picked up randomly and I was able to do it really easy. I put a lot of work in different sports uh, into being an athlete. Absolutely. So yeah, why I'm trying to figure out what type of EV sports I want to do. I'm actually a pretty decent content creator, photographer, and that's what I do for a living currently. That's my main income is photography and a drone pilot. Um, and so I use that skill set to promote on social media channels, uh, like what the car is all about, and that this is the future essentially. And while I was doing that, I was meeting some pretty incredible people. Um, some of the people, for instance, was Unplugged Performance, and I met them at an event that they put on. Avi and Ben, they're the founders of Unplugged Performance. They're putting an event on called Tesla Corsa. And Tesla Corsa is a track specific event. And at this time, I was thinking rally cars, and I wasn't thinking like I was going to race on the track at all. But I did the event anyways. And while I was doing it, I was instantly hooked. Um, I was really excited about figuring out how to hit all the stopping points, apex, and everything perfectly to get the fastest time. And it was, you hit the same course, but you get quicker and quicker every time you learn the track and you put the work in and everything. So I was instantly hooked to that.
You're primarily talking about Button Willow here?
Yeah, this was Button Willow. So for people that don't know, like Button Willow is like world renowned for, time attack events. Obviously, there's race events there and everything. But if you set a good time at Button Willow, you know, it's really respectable throughout the motorsports community. Um, so yeah, like I instantly got hooked there, and I was like, this seems like the place where I want to be. I want to start tracking not so much EV rally cross, because at that time when I was looking into EV rally cross, like there wasn't any big interest in it yet.
There's
Um,
not a community to like mark
there
yourself
was
up
no,
against.
yeah, exactly. There was no like community yet, and still as of now, like there's still not. You got Ken Block and everyone, they're starting to get into EVs. But it's still uh, somewhat new. So I got in with Unplugged. I told them what my ambitions were, and they were like, "Great, man! Like this sounds great. It aligns with exactly what I want to do, what we want to do," and they supported me ever since. It wasn't like an instant support. I really had to put in the work and show them like that I want to go at this 100%. I want to make this a career, a job, and go all out. So,
And with that,
and
so to prove yourself, you've gone to I believe every single Tesla Corsa event, right? Have you missed any of
I
them?
think it was the first one I missed, first or second that I missed, but that's how I found out about the event. So I heard it online. I was like, "Oh man, this is great. I got a car. I want to do like EV rallycross, like this stuff." And so I just went there to meet the people, because it's really important to, uh, hold on to some sort of community, even if it's not necessarily exactly like what you want to do. You got to
Hmm.
start somewhere. And it just turned out to be the path that I'm going down now, which is awesome. I transitioned from, thinking of doing EV rally to to tracking these cars in a time attack or time trials fashion. So going forward and now, like I'm still, building this relationship with Unplugged. We've done a lot of events together. I've helped them out with R&D stuff, and they're really supporting me. And honestly, like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have won a lot of these events already, or got these track records. So I got to put a lot of praise to them. They've helped out through that. And like for someone like me, I'm not a wealthy person. And like a lot of people have uh that perspective of like Tesla owners are just wealthy. All of them are wealthy, right? And like I am definitely not that person. Like I've worked very hard to get this car, and like I could barely even afford it, but I knew that it was a vision that I wanted to support and promote and be on the forefront of. So I just been, grinding ever since. And I have a vision that I know that will give me return in tenfold. So I'm not too worried about it right now, but I just got to put my head down and grind, which, and it's been so incredible with all the support of, even you, Ryan, and Kilowatts. It's really cool that, to be on this cast and talk about my background and what I'm trying to do. So,
Absolutely. One area
yeah.
that you are one, I'll call it out. One area that you are wealthy is in family support. Every time that you're out there, I always see either your dad, your wife, your son go out with you, and just really this awesome level of support. So I think, personally, a shout out to them, but also, can you tell me about like, yeah, how did that, like, telling them, hey, I really want to do this. I want to invest a lot of time and a lot of money, at least what you could spend on it, into like buying the initial car and some of the parts that you had to buy early on before kind of Unplugged even started helping you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, on the expense side, like EV, or not EV motorsports, but in general, motorsports are a very, very expensive thing to do. Like even a regular track day could be like 400 or 500 bucks. And then, everyone thinks, the EV, there's no EV maintenance. It's true for the regular driver, but when you get on a track, you are really wearing down all these parts pretty quickly. Uh, More so like tires and brakes, and your suspension is taking a lot of stress. So it takes a lot of money to pay for that stuff, and like even tires are $1,500, and I run those out in like 3 to 4 track days. So imagine I do nearly 4 track days a month, and it's climbing. Like I'm spending like probably 2 to 4 grand on tires alone a month. It's wild. So, but yeah, I have a huge amount of support from my family. Uh, and again, going back to my skiing career, they were already very used to something like this. I was traveling all the time, and I like to think that I was very successful in my skiing career. And they know that when I have an ambition and my sights on some goals, they fully support it 100%. And it's really cool to have that. If you don't have that support, it's very tough. So I'm super thankful for my dad, my mom, my wife. I mean, it's a there's not many wives out there that would support something like this, especially with how much money is going out, and the money is not coming in.
Not yet,
So
not yet.
not yet, anyways. But she's got the same vision, and she's so happy for it, and we're really excited, man. It's cool.
Absolutely. So I guess kind of to continue that, what are your goals? What are your ambitions? What do you want to achieve? Like, what would make you feel like you are at that eventual level?
You know, I really I got two pretty big ambitions. There's one the biggest one is actually promoting the EV motorsports and the capabilities of these cars, because not many people in motorsports understand the capabilities and how they work and everything. And I truly believe that this is the future. Um, and so that's one thing, is to promote that movement, Um, and when more people are getting on the track with EVs, then I feel like I'm succeeding in that part of the goal. Because I've done a lot of events by myself. I'm literally 200 internal combustion cars, and I'm the only one there. And this was last year, and now, like, almost every event I've gone to, there's an EV now, and like there's more EVs showing up. It's not just Tesla Corsa. It's like now it's NASA and SCCA getting involved, and Speed Ventures, and they're all like, "Hey, how can we get involved in EVs and do time attack event and stuff?" So when they're coming to me and asking for that information, that's like success right there. And the second thing is, I want to be one of the go-to guys that everyone knows, like, you know, this guy's got a record like at every track. Laguna say like in the West Coast is where I'm starting now, but literally globally is what I want, is the end game. Is I want to go everywhere. I want to go to, Japan and all these places, Germany and everything, New Ring, like I want to set records everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and I
And
want to be,
not just EV records.
no, not just beat EVs. Certainly beat out internal combustion cars, because that's part of the promotion, right? Is to show and turn heads in motorsports in general that these EVs are powerful and can, eventually, be the future. And I honestly believe there's going to be a point where um, you're only on the track to when you have an internal combustion car to kind of like drive it like in a classic fashion or something.
Let's get into kind of just like the base level. Like is an EV different than a gas car on the track?
Sure, I think where we should start is the limitations of a current Tesla Model 3 and the uh, the pros of what EV is capable of. So the pros are, instant torque. There's no lag like you would have in internal combustion. You get, these things are incredibly fast on a technical short track. Um, and, you know, Randy even said himself, like, it doesn't even feel like a 4,000 pound car because there's so much torque. It's got low center of gravity, like it's planted to the ground. So they're really fast on short tracks. Now, some of the cons is that um, the top speed isn't there, and I think that is going to be changing this year. With the introduction of like tri motors and everything, we all know that the Plaid can do top speed of 200 miles an hour, and also, you know, the con is these are kind of only time trial or time attack cars. They can't last very long on the track. And to put that in perspective, like I do a warm up lap and I'll do like 2 hot laps at most. And the reason why is because my first hot lap, I got to be spot on because that'll be my fastest lap. And my second hot lap will be nearly a second slower. And the reason why is because battery technology, thermals, the car heats up and then the system basically puts some handicaps on the system so that it doesn't ruin anything, any internals, motors, and all that stuff. Um,
And that was a big deal with the Pikes Peak car was planning for the overheating, and it's unfortunate that we still ended up having an issue with that because of the
Yeah,
battery
we've
damage. But that was definitely one of the main things they talked about was like reducing the heat. How do you dissipate that as quickly as possible so you don't get power limited
yeah,
from
exactly.
heat?
With the Pikes car, we put forced CO2 um, uh, to spray onto the internals that were overheating, or basically the radiator. So like all the fluid can get cooled off really quickly and then go through the whole system. Um, and so, that's something that isn't, there's a chiller, and we utilize the AC in the vehicle to keep the thermals down in the car. Um, but that's still is that can still be updated, and there's still a lot of potential there to be better. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited for the Plaid to come out, because I'm sure they got some internal stuff in there that is going to be absolutely incredible. You know, so,
Well, and even the 4680 cells are
exactly.
already better because of the tablet's design. Is that when they're transferring electrons, it doesn't heat up. The cells don't
Yeah,
heat up as much.
that's the next thing I wanted to talk about, and you're right on, like the battery technology. That's a huge thing, huge part about this. And I believe that they're just time attack cars now, but they're going to turn into enduro race cars very soon. And we're going to have these races, and I can't wait to be a part of that and do some wheel to wheel racing. That's going to be incredible. And I think that that is like literally right around the corner. It's already happening with the Model 3, but when this technology comes through, it's right around the corner. It's really going to change the motorsports industry.
And do you think it'll be like a light switch? Do you think that transition, because once they introduce the tabless design, like will it be kind of an overnight thing where people realize, or do you think that people will realize more slowly, like, oh, this is possible, and more people will slowly
You know,
adopt?
I think it's going to inspire more people to get involved, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be a switch. I think it's going to be a big step for sure. And uh, I think this is where it'll really change people's minds, but it won't be a switch. There's still going to be those people that want to stick with internal combustions for a while. But where it's going to really change is when people start setting lap records that are beating internal combustion cars. And there's going to be a point where they just won't be able to hang. And it'll be something that they're just going to have to adopt. Um, and that's something that I really believe in. And I during my time of driving, playing with RC cars when I was really young, I had a gas car too, and I had our electric car right next to it, and it was really awesome to just get involved with that gas car and play around with it and see if I can make it faster and everything. But there was a point where it just got so messy, just like the nitro was just all over the place. Like the car was getting so greasy and just kept breaking down. And like I always had to change shit out. And all while I had this electric car where I could just charge the battery and just rip it around, and like get it back. And there was less maintenance. And I could just focus on having fun with what I really wanted to do. And that's like the same transition I see now happening, is that it's really fun getting involved in the internal combustion motorsports industry and everything, but it's just super messy. And there is an option out there that people can even just go on a regular track day and have fun with a stock car. You can't, you can do that with an internal combustion car, but there's more than likely a lot more maintenance involved with an internal combustion car than an electric car. The money involved into keeping a internal combustion car uh, going is like crazy compared to an EV car.
Absolutely.
So,
What's like the
you
the
know,
biggest expense you've had is in terms of repair? Have you had anything break either on the track or We should highlight this is also your personal daily driver as well. You kind of swap between the two. So,
Yeah.
what has been the biggest cost, in terms of repair or maintenance, other than maybe tires?
Yeah, I was gonna say like the number one thing is tires, but because I have a lot of components from Unplugged, they built those components, all the suspension components, to last a long time and take the beating that I give them, um, so that's not to say that OEM parts can't take track use, because they definitely can. I drove the car uh, for 6 months on a track, like without any upgraded parts, and it was able to take the stress. But if you're going to do it long term, obviously, like unplugged parts or any aftermarket parts, suspension parts is the way to go.
Do you have anyone that you look up to in the industry?
I think, who's been super inspirational to me, and I respect a lot and kind of like mentor, is Randy Popes. You know, he's a guy that's got track records everywhere. And he can literally get in any car and make that thing look like a race car. He can get in a lemon, he can get in like a $500, car and just rip it around the track.
Yeah.
And he'll be faster than most people, and he can get into Porsches, McLarens, and whatever. And like you give him one warm up lap, and the dude can set a record. It's
Yeah, no,
wild.
it's
And
crazy. He literally does the warm up, and his first hot lap is often his fastest.
exactly. And so he's been huge inspiration to me. And I always believe that if you want to be the best, then you need to work with the best and learn from the best. And so I think Randy's one of those people,
So let's get into
and
that. How did you first meet Randy, and how did you end up, basically having him almost a little bit as a mentor?
yeah, I met Randy at a Tesla Corsa. I can't remember which one, but it was pretty early on, and he was out there doing some tests, and he also kind of did like a workshop and everything. And so everyone got to go in this building and just kind of listen on, his perspectives and his opinions and tips and everything. So I met him there. I got a picture with him, and I don't think he thought too much about it. He was probably thinking that I was just some, another fan kid that wanted a picture with him. But I think little did he know is that I really wanted to make this a career, and actually turn some heads and make something of it. So ever since then, like I kept tabs on what he was doing, where he was at, and just followed him on his channels. Um, Talked with Unplugged Ben and Avi, like, hey, what's what's Pope's doing right now? Where's he gonna be at? You should have him another Test Corsa. And they did, and I just kept having more conversations with him. I think it was Laguna Seca. He was there. Um, and they were doing a shakedown of the Pikes car, and I think that's when we really started linking together and talking about the mechanics of the car and what I believe that we could change to make it faster. And I like to think that he took that in consideration, and I think he did, because we ended up changing some of the characteristics of the cars from there going forward to Pikes Peak. So and then we got into Pikes, man. Like, and we really learned about each other then. We went out to lunch, like all of us, and uh, like I was kind of his, like, Eddie and I were his right hand guys. I was the last person he would see before he went up Pikes, because I made sure everything was situated in the car. All safety equipment, track mode was engaged, that he was, his oxygen was on at the right level he needed. Like I was the last guy he saw, and I said, "Hey, have fun, rip it up there, do your thing." and gave him a fist pump like every time. So
And you and Eddie both are great people for that, because Eddie's very much into cars as well. Obviously, Eddie being a technician for Unplugged knows kind of the technical side as well. But then you solely focusing on EVs and really being there, like wanting to achieve the same goals, literally in the same cars. Like it absolutely, I think, kind of played into that, where he gets that you get it.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think that he's been in so many cars that uh potentially it could be a little confusing getting into something like the Pikes Peak car and instantly having to rip this thing really quick. So that's where I came into play to help him like get in tune to this car quicker than he usually does and tell him like what's up with the car.
Yeah, a little bit of a
All
translator.
the little quirks and everything, so he can transition quick into it. And what also helps is being a professional athlete and being on that side, being a professional skier, being on that side and understanding what his mind is going through before you do a run. I think that's just important, and there's certain ways that you should have a conversation with somebody or talk to them before they go up and do their thing, uh, because it could also really mess with their head sometime if you say something off or whatever. So yeah, back to Randy and the Pikes thing, like it was, you know, last year was insane. I know a lot of people listening right now, like what we went through. We had the crash, and as soon as we got the car, um, obviously the priority was making sure that Randy was okay, but we got the car and we're just writing it off as done. Like we're like, there's no way. All right, let's pack it up, let's go home. But um, I think what really turned this around, we even got the car to uh down to the city and put it on a lift, and Eddie and I were looking at it like, oh my God, this thing is so toast.
Too
There's
many
no way.
parts, too much is gone.
So many parts, everything, and we never even thought about buying a donor. Like that wasn't even our thought at that point. But someone like Ben, who, the founder of Unplugged, who is just so persistent and, like wanting to, promote what EVs are capable of, he pretty much just, no was not an alternative. It was, we're going to figure this out and make it happen. And that's what the turning point was. We were all like, we got that extra energy because he was like, guys, we can do this. Let's do this. Let's get out there and let's make it happen. And we got that extra energy, and then 48 hours we had to just, there was no sleep, rebuilding that whole thing. It was absolutely insane that we even got that thing going. And if it wasn't for that battery fault, uh man, we probably would have got like sub 10. It would have been insane. But either way, the story's incredible, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that we were able to get that thing across the finish line
I don't want to ruin it
was
for anyone
pretty
that
spectacular.
wasn't watching last year, but yeah, the spoiler alert. Yeah, we had that battery fault, which was like the only major part that wasn't swapped out, only because we
Yep.
thought, I think even Tesla came out and inspected it and said, batteries should be fine. No
Yeah.
promises, because we've never seen anything like this before, but batteries should be fine. And that was one of the only parts that we could have swapped that we didn't. That was structural. But I can't wait. As you know, we've been working on a documentary from including some of your footage, but after the crash, you were hardly filming anything.
Yeah.
We've got a
I'm
lot of your
living
shots
in the car,
beforehand.
literally.
Yeah, yeah. And I was looking at the current draft, and you're in there talking about what you're expecting from the vehicle at that point in time, while you're
Dude, I,
living
I
in it.
remember actually falling asleep in that car,
Yeah.
like working on electrical and stuff, and literally like just bobbing my head, falling asleep. That's how wild it got.
And on that note, like, how did you become like the technician on that? I think, I kind of know, but for our listeners, like, how did you end up from being like, just like, race car driver support media guy to, hey, I'm in here working on the car? Was that just based on your experience modifying your car that you were able to figure things out? Or how did you end up in that position?
Yeah, well, when I get involved in something, it's not just a particular thing about that involvement. It is literally every little bit. So when I'm driving a car, I want to know everything about it. I want to know the electronics, the mechanical parts about it, every component and all that stuff. And so I basically make it an addiction of understanding it and figuring out how I can make it better. So I quickly understood what the car was before Pikes Peak was even uh, when before we were even at Pikes Peak. So, from there, I found that there was a opening of which we needed at Pikes Peak, that there wasn't necessarily a, technician to go through the car and the inside and make sure everything is good. And I kind of just took that role. I was like, hey, this is a role, and we didn't necessarily clarify exactly what we were gonna do, but you know, obviously Ben was like, hey, I'd love for you to, get photos. And I thought that was gonna be most of the trip actually, is just create content and everything. But when shit hit the fan, I really got involved with inside and figuring it all out for everyone. Um, so yeah, that's how I got into the role of pretty much being a technician alongside of Eddie.
Yeah, and then the two guys at Eurocar.
Yeah,
Was
exactly.
was it Brian and
Brian and Chris.
yes, they were excellent. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure we got their names out
man,
there because they were excellent.
dude, they were saviors. Like, we would not be able to finish that car without them, without Eurocar. No way in hell. We didn't even like there. We utilized their whole garage. They were open arms. They were like, and they also gave us a huge like boost of confidence because we even took the car there from another mom and pop's like mechanical shop, and still we were like, this car's done. And we brought it there, and they were like, no, man, I think we can get it going. We're Eddie and I were just like, really? Like, no way. And they're like, yeah, we got this. Like, we could do a battery swap in like an hour. I wish we did that, but uh, and man, Brian, dude, they all worked 48 hours straight too with us. They didn't stop. And, they didn't have to do that either. And I think it was part of their passion, of
Hmm.
motorsports to help out people in need and see this thing succeed. And it was just incredible. And I think actually, I don't know if Chris is going to be involved, but I'm pretty sure Brian is going to be up there helping this year. So that's going to be incredible. I'm really stoked for that. He's a cool dude too. They're both very cool dudes and they're easy. Like, we all clicked very well together. I mean, we didn't have a choice either. It was just like the people were have to just all get along, and it just so happened that we did, and it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, any single like if there was kind of a issue, it would have manifested itself in an incomplete car. It wouldn't have happened if you guys didn't vibe well. And it's so cool that yeah, that they were committed, that they were cool, and that yeah, I just remember Brian seemed like it seemed like even once he was done, he was like, okay, now what? Like the car's done, but he was like
Yeah,
ready to help out even more.
he's like, where do we go next?
Yeah.
Where's the next event?
So with that, what is looking ahead for you? I mean, we talked a little bit about your goals high level, but what is like coming up on the horizon for you as it relates to, pushing your car to the limits? I know, this summer things are starting to open up again, but to the same note, like a lot of tracks, we've not been able to have another Tesla Corsa yet. What are you looking ahead to?
Oh man, yeah. Uh, I think we should back up just a little bit from that and put some stuff in context, because the pandemic has been a huge issue for my ambitions in the past year and a half. I basically, my goals were to get 10 track records this year. And that's been very tough because a lot of the events were canceled and everything. So I've basically been doing my best, but I've still captured a couple track records and also some wins. And I'm continuing to be, when there is a Tesla Corsa, one of the top time attack laps. So I've got some big ambitions for next year as well. Last year I was hoping to just set that as like the baseline and get some sponsors involved for this year. And again, the pandemic really put somewhat of a stress on it because, when that first started, all of these sponsors had to do budget cuts and lay off people. And so what that means is like there's no financial support for what I'm doing. So it's been very difficult, like a lot of this investment has been straight out of my pocket. And again, like I don't have I don't have that much money. So like every all my efforts and are going straight towards it. And thankfully, like Unplugged is still there to fully help my ambitions, which is incredible. Without them, it'd be very difficult this year. And obviously, family. Without them supporting, I don't think that I would be even close to what I've done this year. So very stoked with that. And this past weekend, I won two time attack events and set a official EV record at Willow Springs. So I'm going to be jumping on more of their events. I think they have some at Bun Willow. I'm going to be going to Laguna Seca. Uh, and hopefully travel a little more east. I want to go into Utah, um, and also Texas and potentially Virginia. So there's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot more tracking to be done. I'm going to be, I currently do like 4 track days a month, and it's just climbing. So potentially every weekend I might be somewhere. Uh, and yeah, if you ever see me around at a supercharger, don't hesitate to come up and chat, man. I love chatting about it and talking about what I'm doing and promote the whole movement. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Craig. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for being out there setting records and showing us the way. Well, I guess before I cut, is there anything you feel like I missed?
Um, I just want to give a huge thanks to my family. Honestly, like I could not do this without them in the sport. My wife, she's actually pregnant right now for our second child, due this weekend, and it's gonna be a baby girl, and we are just so excited, and we can't wait to share this life with her and show her what it's all about. And who knows? Maybe we're gonna have some little EV racers growing up. We'll see. My little son, yeah, my little son Koa, like he loves everything I do, and it's so awesome to see. And like we'll see where he goes with it. Who knows?
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And you've got a beautiful family. Really appreciate your time today and really appreciate you joining us for this podcast, this episode of Kilowatt Hour.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ryan. Stoked.
Thank you. Take care.
See ya.